What's up, beautiful peoples? It's Josey. How we feeling? How we doing? Today's video is going to be about port-a-caths and other central lines. Port-a-caths and PICC lines. I'm just going to do those two because I've gone through a couple of them. So let's get into it. Ow! So, my last video, if you haven't watched it yet, link is in the description below. Check that out. I took you through one of my typical treatment days, when I get my transfusion, and I've actually been through probably like all the processes, all that I think we can think of. Yeah, from like manual exchange to just depletion. Basically every method that Toronto General could provide for us. So I've had different ways, like different lines, in order to make that more efficient. And I'm pretty sure we just started with a regular IV line, if you go to the hospital, or if you go and do like a test, a minimally invasive test where you have to get an injection, like a CT scan and MRIs and whatnot, you'll get like a little IV in your hand or in your arm and whatnot. But we've gone through that too, but like you have to have really good veins, and I have horrible veins. My veins are anorexic, okay? The nurses have the hardest time finding them, and it's just like my veins have a mind of its own. It knows the days I have to do treatment, and it goes in hot. So the two, or actually I guess three different devices I've used, right, to do my transfusions and things like that are a port-a-cath, right, and I've had two different types of port-a-caths. We're going to get into that one second, and a PICC line. All right, so there are medical devices that go beneath the skin, right, to access the biggest, juiciest veins. So that way, there's the efficiency in collecting blood or infusing medication or blood or other, other heavy things. It's just easy to get to, easy access, all about efficiency, right? So, first one is the port-a-cath. Second type of port-a-cath I've had is the Vortex port-a-cath. Now, the difference between a regular port-a-cath and a Vortex port-a-cath is that the Vortex port-a-cath has two chambers, two lumens. So it's like a little Y, right? Plug in picture over there. So those ones go right under the skin. So you make an incision, where we want to get it. Like, you have some big major veins in here, and it's close to the heart, right? So we want to get very close to the heart, because that's where all the blood is pumping and it's not obstructed or anything like that. So they make a small incision at the top here, right? And they insert it, rest it on your breastbone, right? And you could, generally you could see it raised, but it kind of falls into me. I have a lot of keloids because it's been used often, but you could generally tell when someone has a port-a-cath because it tends to raise over the skin, depending on your body type and, the tissues under the fat and everything beneath and everything. Mine, it kind of fuses in pretty nicely. I don't know. I'm just blessed like that, I guess. But you could see the catheter going up my neck, and it kind of just goes over my clavicle, right? But it's all in a vein, and it goes right down into my heart, right? So there's two chambers, and it makes it easy for the type of treatment that I do. The apheresis is called, and it's basically a machine that does exchange. I mean by exchange, and you guys saw in my previous video, it's that blood comes out, the unhealthy blood comes out, and healthy blood goes in. Right, so I'm like literally doing a full exchange, a full cycle of renewing my blood, all my blood, most of it. I get 9 units right now, so this is like 9 bags. So if you've ever donated blood, first of all, thank you. Second, you'll know that, like, you know, they fill bags, they feel like unit bags up of blood and everything. I get basically like 9 of those bags. I'm pretty sure, yeah, 9. It's been a while. I used to get 7, but now I get 9. Vortex Port-a-cath gives you that push and pull, where the regular Port-a-cath just gives you either push or pull. So it can't do both simultaneously. And with apheresis, you need to be able to do it simultaneously, because that's what the machine is designed for. More efficiency, and a more accurate way of cleaning out the blood, you know, and exchanging it for healthier blood cells, because there's still sickle blood being created. A PICC line is basically like an extended, slightly thicker IV line. So it's, the catheter itself is probably like about that big. I mean, there's different sizes depending on the person, the body, just like regular IV lines. But yeah, it's probably like, for me, I've probably had like it that big, and that pull, ooh, it's something. But that one actually sits on the outside. Half of it sits on the outside, right? And I've had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because twice in one. Yeah, I pulled 2 out before. Once it was because I was delirious, right? I was suffering from delirium, so I just yanked it out. And the second was an accidentally yanked it out, getting out of bed, and it started kind of leaking and bleeding everywhere. So that was no longer good. And I had to get a new one. So for ports, I had the one single one when I was in Sick Kids, and then by the time I came over to Toronto General, I still had my port, and they were actually surprised how long I had it for. I was able to hold on to it for 5 years because my skin just does really well. My body does really well not getting troubled with infections, right? So I was able to hold on to mine, and then the new treatment plan came for me to do apheresis, and I was able to get the Vortex Port-a-cath. And I had that for like almost a good 5 years until I had to just change it just because it was due, but also because the positioning of it wasn't working. And it kind of had it was catching a little bit too much, so the inside one wasn't giving the pull or the push I needed to get my exchanges more efficiently, you know. And if they don't pull up the blood, the heparin that's inside the line that keeps it clear flowing and not clotted goes into my body, and that's not healthy, because then it thins out my blood and I could end up with uncontrollable bleeding, which we don't want. Right? So I've only exchanged it because of medical use, right? Not because of, you know, anything that my body was just like, we can't do this, we're gonna say. The only thing I have to show for these medical things that I go through, my transitions and stuff like that, are my scars, right? There's a lot to my story, right, that I'm unfolding and everything like that, but like, I find that I can't take pictures of myself in hospital being sick. It's like I'm not able to look at it. So I never was comfortable showing that part. You know, I did it for a while, like I did some scrapbooking for a while, but even then I was just like, I couldn't see myself myself sick. You know, I never really walked around with it on my face, and no one really knew that I was going through anything because I looked normal enough, right? Yeah, I was skinny. Yeah, I kind of looked tired, and I had like jaundice and whatnot. You can't really see any of my scars, right? Unless I point them out. But yeah, so you don't get used to having IVs. You don't get used to pain. It's just something that you know, right? And you find ways to develop strategies to like handle it. You know, you just kind of just handle it. You tolerate it because you have to. But yeah, I've had 5 different central lines. I've been blessed that I haven't had to deal with infection, because that could be a whole new ball game of terror in this sickle cell life, and I'm grateful that I haven't had to suffer through that. But I know people who have, and it's not fun. It's never a good thing, right? But these are the typical devices that we use, and yeah, until technology furthers and we get to do one of those, you know, like in Marvel movies in Wakanda, they just basically scan you so you don't feel anything. There's no piercing of the skin or anything like that. It's just little like rays going over your body and everything, just healing your body so easily. Oh, if only. But yeah, we have these medical devices, and that's what I use for my transfusion. That's what I showed. I wanted to show it in my vlog properly, but you got a little run through. Oh yes, the needles that we use. So we know how a PICC line works. You know, it's basically an extended IV, so the needle's already in it, and you kind of just weave the catheter through, right, like into a thick vein that reaches, you know, your vessels. But for port-a-caths now, the needles are special. When accessing, you have to make sure your site is really clean and like sanitized and everything like that, because you're breaking through the skin and the needles are pretty thick. There's a needle that looks like, it's like a little L, I guess. It was like a right angle needle, okay? And depending on how deep your port is, right, depending on the thickness of your skin, there's different gauges, there's different sizes, right? And that usually is like, if I was to get admitted to the hospital and I needed fluids, or I was getting like medication or whatever, yeah, it's a simple access and done. Usually I don't use EMLA. You saw in the last video I used EMLA because those needles were thick. Okay, they're thick and they're painful. And there's 2. So yeah, with that, I don't generally need EMLA. It's a quick and we're good. You really have to be careful though, because like you have to, because it's under the skin, you can't see it. You have to feel it, right? So you have to feel where the chambers are and everything. Make sure you hit directly in the middles, like playing darts, right? But the human being feels it. The human being is the target, and you know, bullseye is under their skin. So you really need to feel and know where you're going, because if you miss, you're gonna have to do that again, and that's not pleasant. It's not pleasant at all. You know, I had to do it during home care once in a while. And it got to a point where I wanted to just do it myself, right? Because the nurse, the PSW that I had, wasn't really familiar with it and kept on missing. It was painful. I don't know how I stayed positive through it, because I wanted to take that needle and right back, let her feel it. But you know, can't really do that. But no, it's just that it's so painful. And when you're in pain, you get this urge to like hit something or like return the pain back and everything like that. So, you know, it's really important for sicklers or anyone who has a disease that requires PICC lines and central lines like that, and you have to constantly get IVs and stuff like that, it's really important that we're to communicate and that the nurse performing it listens, because you can't be numb to these things, you know? You can't ignore the pain that I'm going through while you're trying to, you know, literally stab me professionally. No, but I'll never wish this on anybody, honestly. Pain is not fun, and we all go through our own type of pain and everything like that, so I would never wish that on anybody. But yeah, it's something that I have to deal with. It's something that I handle, and I think I handle it with grace. I think so, anyways. But yeah, those are the every month I get these thick ass needles going right into my chest, you know, 2 of them, and they out afterwards, you know. And imagine, like, a few years ago when I was in the hospital every 2 seconds, I was doing that as well, but also, you know, getting sick and having to end up in the hospital. I went through a time during high school, I was literally in the hospital every other week, and it was really hard to keep up with school, so I ended up having to get homeschooled, right? With PICC lines, you're at a higher risk for infection because it's halfway out, right? So those were never really good for me. No, I preferred the port over a PICC line any day. All right, if I had to choose, and I do have to choose, and I did choose. So until it was no longer a choice. All right, some people will have both, and that was almost me one time, and I was just like, no, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. I can't handle that. That's too much. But yeah, even though I have to deal with the keloids, you know, I'd rather deal with the keloids than potential infections every month or whatnot. But I think even with the PICC line, I went to school with it sometimes, but you would never know because I hid it underneath my clothes. Same thing with the sometimes I would be access at the port, and I would go to school. It's just covered up and everything like that, because I would come home and I would do, because I was in the hospital so often, I would have a home care nurse come and just flush my line and reheparinize it, because I would have to go back to the hospital, or I'll end up in the hospital a week after, and, you know, get stuck there for about a week before I get out. And then doing the transfusions as well, like monthly, I was just like, you might as well just keep it in. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you're able to keep it, the needle in, like, accessed in your port for about up to 3 weeks, max, and everything. But I think they like it better if you change it weekly. But that hurts. That's a lot of in and out, in and out, stabby, stabby, pokey, pokey, ouchie, ouchie. But yeah, I would go to school with it, and nobody would be none the wiser. Yep, that was me. But yeah, I'm lucky nowadays that I don't get sick as often, so we thank God. Hallelujah. So I just have the Vortex. I go monthly to do my transfusions, apheresis treatments, and I walk out with no needles in my chest. All I have to really suffer through is the itchiness of the keloids, but hey, it is what it is. And yeah, it does definitely make it tougher to poke through, right? So I get some nurses that kind of just shift it and poke, which, you know what, I appreciate. But yeah, you know, after a while, I usually get like cortisol injections, because it does flatten the keloids and everything. But it gets really annoying and very irritating, but that's my life. And it is what it is, like I said. Well, there's nothing else I can do about it. So I just gotta live it. Right? But yeah, that's the port-a-caths and PICC lines. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Watch my other videos if you haven't watched them. I'm working hard, tired a lot these days. Just trying to, write my thoughts down and organize it and put it out there and stuff. But I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going because I'm enjoying doing it, and I hope you're enjoying watching it. And if you're a new subscriber, thank you and welcome to my channel. It's Josey. I'm gonna keep smiling, I'm gonna keep pushing, and I'm gonna keep telling my story to you. So let's go. I hope you are inspired, and I hope that this helps your journey, whether you have sickle cell or whether you know people who have sickle cell or just life in general. So, peace and love. Beautiful peoples, how we feeling? Hope you enjoyed that video. I'm pushing out videos every Sunday at 10 a.m. so be sure to tune in and watch what I got to offer. Like, share, subscribe. Tell me about it in the comments. Mwah.